Welcome to your personalized deep dive into superlearning. You sent over some excerpts from a Japanese book called 50 Uton, which translates to 50 superlearning methods in English.
Okay.
And get this, the author spent 20 years
Wow.
and the equivalent of $730,000 US testing these out.
Oh, wow.
Talk about dedication.
Yeah, it definitely suggests he's found some valuable insights, and he's clearly not afraid to invest in the pursuit of knowledge.
Right, so what we're going to do today is unpack the most powerful takeaways from those excerpts,
Okay.
especially the stuff you can put into practice right away.
Sounds good.
The book starts off strong by claiming that 80% of successful learning is about mindset,
Okay.
and only 20% is about the method.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. We often get caught up in finding the perfect method, but the truth is,
Right.
our beliefs about learning play a huge role. If you believe your abilities are fixed, what we call a fixed mindset, you're less likely to embrace challenges. But a growth mindset, believing you can improve, is like unlocking a secret level in a video game.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And the book actually shares an anecdote that illustrates this perfectly.
Okay.
The author talks about being inspired to learn English after seeing a classmate casually chatting with an American teacher.
Interesting.
It completely shifted his belief about what was possible.
It's a perfect example of how powerful role models can be. Seeing someone achieve what we aspire to
Right.
can shatter those limiting beliefs and ignite a fire within us.
So it seems like step one on the superlearning journey is cultivating that growth mindset.
Yeah.
But then the book dives into something called visualization practice,
Oh, okay.
which honestly sounded a little woo-woo to me at first.
I understand the skepticism, but there's compelling research to back it up. The book highlights a study from the University of Chicago about basketball free throws.
Okay.
Participants who only visualized practicing improved almost as much as those who physically practiced.
Wait, seriously, just picturing it in your mind had that much impact.
That's the power of mental rehearsal.
Wow.
By vividly imagining yourself performing a skill, you're essentially training your brain. It's like creating a mental blueprint for success.
So we're not just talking about positive thinking here,
Yeah.
but actually engaging in focused mental imagery,
Yeah,
almost like a simulation in your head.
exactly. And this ties back to the importance of mindset.
Mhm.
If you believe visualization works, your brain is primed to make those mental rehearsals more effective.
Okay, that's starting to make more sense. But then the book throws in this whole idea of learning time lag, basically saying that real learning takes time.
Yeah.
That feels a little discouraging after all this talk about super learning, doesn't it?
Well, it's important to acknowledge the reality of the learning process.
Yeah.
We live in a world of instant gratification, but true mastery requires patience and consistent effort. Think of it like planting a seed. You can't rush the growth, but you can nurture it along the way.
So how do we balance that need for patience
Right.
with the desire to accelerate our learning?
Yeah.
The book seems to suggest short-term intensive learning as a solution.
It's a bit of a paradox, right? But think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how crash courses like those for driving school often have higher pass rates than traditional drawn-out classes?
Now that you mention it, yeah, that does seem to be the case. Is it because we're more focused when the time is limited?
Exactly. When we condense the learning period and immerse ourselves fully,
Okay.
we create an environment of heightened focus and intensity. It's like sprinting towards a goal instead of leisurely strolling.
Okay, so it's about intensity over duration.
Yeah,
But how do we actually apply that to our own learning?
right.
The book does mention 5 keys to making short-term intensive learning work, right?
That's right. It's not just about cramming information.
Right.
It's about strategic focus. The first key is finding a role model, someone who embodies the skills or knowledge you're aiming for.
So it's not just about studying the subject itself,
Right.
but also studying someone who's mastered it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yep. The next key is to define your desired outcome, and this is where things get interesting. The book emphasizes writing down your goal, and more importantly, why it matters to you.
So it's about connecting with your intrinsic motivation. It's not enough to just want to learn something.
Right.
You have to be clear on the deeper purpose driving that desire.
Exactly. The third key is all about immersion. This could mean attending intensive workshops, enrolling in a focused online course, or dedicating a specific period to really diving deep into a subject.
I'm starting to see how these keys build on each other. You have the inspiration from your role model, the clarity of your goal, and then you create this focused learning environment for yourself.
And to solidify that, learning the fourth key is regular review here. The book introduces a concept called the spacing effect.
Okay.
A scientifically proven technique. The idea is to review material at specific intervals 1 day later, 1 week later, and then 1 month later.
Wait, so instead of cramming right before a test, we
Right.
should actually space out our review sessions. I've definitely heard of that before, but I never really understood why it worked.
It has to do with how our brains store and retrieve information when we space out our practice.
Right.
We're forcing our brains to work harder to recall the information, which strengthens the neural pathways and improves long-term retention.
So it's like giving our brains a workout by making them search for the information instead of just passively receiving it. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What's the fifth and final key?
The book highlights the power of learning with others.
Okay.
It's about accountability, shared motivation, and the benefits of diverse perspectives.
It's like having a built-in support system.
Yeah.
Someone to celebrate your wins with, help you through challenges, and keep you on track.
The book actually mentions the concept of masterminds.
Oh, yeah.
Groups of high achievers who meet regularly to learn from and support each other. It's a powerful reminder that even the most successful people don't go it alone.
So instead of trying to be a lone wolf super learner,
Right.
we should actually be building our own packs. I like that idea.
And it makes sense, right? Humans are social creatures, and we thrive in environments where we can connect, collaborate, and learn from each other. It's like having a super learning squad.
I'm feeling a lot less intimidated by this whole super learning thing. Now it seems less about superhuman abilities
Yeah.
and more about creating the right conditions for accelerated growth.
That's a great way to put it. It's about leveraging the power of our minds, our environments, and our social connections to unlock our learning potential.
This is great stuff, and there's even more to unpack.
Yes, and I think you'll find the next concept particularly intriguing. The book dives into the power of modeling, consciously mimicking the behaviors, habits, and even mindset of those who have already achieved what you desire.
Wait, you mean like actually studying how successful people do things and then trying to emulate them? Isn't that a little, well, copycat itch?
It's not about blind imitation, but about strategic observation and adaptation. Think about it this way. If you want to be a world-class athlete,
Right.
wouldn't you study the training regimens and mental strategies of the top performers in your sport?
Yeah.
Or if you aspire to be a captivating speaker, wouldn't you analyze the techniques and stage presence of those who command an audience?
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about learning from the best and then adapting those insights to fit your own style and goals.
Precisely. The book gives some great examples. It talks about mimicking the stage presence of a skilled speaker, that's studying the training methods of top athletes, and even observing the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs.
It's like reverse engineering success instead of trying to figure everything out on our own.
Yeah.
We can learn from those who have already paved the path, but the book doesn't just focus on outward actions, right? It also talks about understanding the inner workings of our role models.
That's a crucial point. The book emphasizes understanding your role model's values, beliefs, and even their thought processes.
Okay.
It's not just about mimicking their outward actions, but also about understanding the deeper principles driving their success.
So it's about internalizing those winning strategies. It's about becoming a student of success, not just a mimic.
Exactly. And this leads to another key insight from the book.
Okay.
The importance of output. It's not enough to just passively consume information. We need to actively apply it.
I've definitely been guilty of that, reading a ton of books and feeling like I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
But then not actually doing anything with that knowledge.
It's a common trap. The book actually cites brain science, highlighting studies that suggest the ideal ratio for learning is 30% input, 70% output.
Wow.
It's about turning knowledge into action.
Okay, so we need to shift from being information hoarders to knowledge doers.
Yeah.
How does the book suggest we bridge that gap?
The author recommends creating a to-do list specifically for applying newly acquired knowledge. He even shares his own personal example outlining the actions he took after reading a book on leadership.
So instead of just highlighting passages or taking notes, we should actually be creating a plan for putting those insights into practice.
That's the idea. It's about turning passive learning into active implementation. Think of it like this. If you were learning to cook, you wouldn't just read recipes all day. You'd get in the kitchen and start experimenting.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's about turning learning into a hands-on experience.
Exactly. And the book provides some great prompts for creating your own action plan. It encourages you to ask yourself, what specific actions can I take based on what I've learned? Who can I share this knowledge with? And what project or challenge can I apply this to?
So it's about going beyond just understanding the concepts.
Yeah.
And actually integrating them into our lives. It's about making learning a catalyst for tangible results.
That's the essence of super learning. It's not just about acquiring knowledge.
Right.
It's about using that knowledge to achieve our goals, make a difference, and live more fulfilling lives.
This is so empowering. It feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah. We are, but I think we've laid a solid foundation. We've explored the importance of mindset, the power of visualization, the concept of short-term intensive learning, the benefits of modeling, and the necessity of output.
It's a lot to take in, but it all feels very actionable.
Yeah.
Like we can actually start incorporating these principles into our own learning journeys right away.
That's the goal.
But what about when things get tough? What about the inevitable setbacks and challenges we'll face along the way?
That's a great question, and one that the book addresses head-on. It dedicates an entire section to embracing failure and using it as a springboard for growth.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's perfect, right? We all make mistakes, especially when we're trying to learn something new. So how do we avoid getting discouraged when those inevitable stumbles happen?
The book encourages viewing failure as feedback,
Okay.
not as a sign of defeat. It highlights the importance of reframing our perspective, seeing mistakes as opportunities to learn and improve.
So instead of beating ourselves up for messing up,
Yeah.
we should actually be thanking our mistakes for the lessons they teach us.
Exactly, and the book provides some great examples of how successful people have embraced failure as a stepping stone to greatness.
I'm curious to hear about those examples because sometimes those setbacks can feel so defeating, it's easy to get caught in a spiral of self-doubt.
I understand, but the book offers a really powerful technique for overcoming those moments of inertia, and it ties in perfectly with something you mentioned earlier.
What's that?
Mel Robbins' 5-second rule.
Wait, really? That simple countdown technique is actually mentioned in this super learning book.
It is, and for a good reason. The book explains the science behind it,
Okay.
highlighting how it interrupts our brain's natural tendency to overthink and hesitate. It's like hitting the override button on our doubts and fears.
So whenever we feel that resistance, that urge to procrastinate or give up,
Yeah.
we should just count down from 5 and launch ourselves into action.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that action is the antidote to fear and doubt. It's about breaking through those mental barriers and proving to ourselves that we're capable of more than we think.
That's such a simple yet powerful concept. I love it. But I have to admit, I still tend to fall back on those traditional learning methods. Reading books, watching videos, taking notes. It all feels very visual and cerebral.
And there's definitely a place for those methods, but the book challenges us to go beyond just visual input and engage all of our senses in the learning process.
Wait, so we should be incorporating things like touch, smell, and even taste into our learning. How
Yeah.
does that even work?
Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how certain scents can trigger vivid memories?
Yeah.
Or how a specific song can transport you back to a particular time and place? Our senses are incredibly powerful tools for learning and memory.
Okay, that's starting to make sense. So how do we apply this to actually learning new things?
The book suggests experimenting with a variety of techniques.
Okay.
For example, you could use sticky notes with different colored inks to associate concepts with visual and tactile cues. Or you could create a memory palace associating information with locations in a familiar environment.
I've heard of memory palaces, but never actually tried to create one.
Right.
It sounds a little intimidating.
It might seem complex at first, but it's actually quite intuitive. The book provides a step-by-step guide to creating your own memory palace.
Okay.
And it even suggests using real-world locations like your home or your neighborhood to make it even more personal.
So we're basically turning our surroundings into a giant memory map. That's a cool concept.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are there any studies that actually support the effectiveness of these multisensory learning techniques?
Absolutely. The book cites several studies that have shown how incorporating movement, emotion, and even sense into the learning process can increase brain activity and memory retention.
So it's not just some woo-woo idea. There's actual scientific evidence to back it up.
That's right. And the book provides specific examples of how these techniques have been applied in various fields. For instance, language learners have found success by acting out verbs and physically engaging with new vocabulary.
That's interesting. I can actually see how that would help cement the meaning in your mind. It's like embodying the language instead of just trying to memorize words on a page.
Exactly. It's about making learning a full-body experience.
It seems like we're moving away from the traditional image of the solitary student hunched over a book
Yeah.
and towards a much more active and engaging approach to learning.
That's a great observation, and it ties into another important concept from the book,
Yep.
the importance of taking breaks and connecting with nature.
Wait, hold on a second. Are you saying that taking breaks can actually help us learn better?
Absolutely. We often think that more time spent studying equals more knowledge gained. But the truth is,
Right.
our brains need time to rest and recharge. The book actually contrasts American and Japanese summer breaks,
Interesting.
pointing out how Japanese students have significantly longer breaks, which allows them to return to school feeling refreshed and ready to learn.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about pushing ourselves to the limit, but also about respecting our natural rhythms and giving ourselves time to process what we've learned. But what does nature have to do with this?
Studies have shown that spending time in nature has numerous cognitive benefits.
Okay.
It reduces stress, improves focus, and even boosts creativity.
So it's like hitting the reset button on our brains,
Yes.
allowing us to return to our studies feeling more alert and receptive.
Exactly. The book encourages incorporating regular breaks in nature exposure into our learning routines. It could be as simple as taking a walk in the park, listening to the sounds of nature, or just gazing at the sky.
I love that idea. It's about integrating learning into our lives in a holistic way,
Yeah.
not just treating it as a separate, isolated activity.
Anyway,
But what about reading that still seems like a core component of learning, especially with all the emphasis on books in this podcast episode? Does the book offer any advice on how to make reading a more effective learning tool?
it does. In fact, the author is a self-proclaimed avid reader and credits books with shaping his life and career. He emphasizes the importance of having a clearer purpose before diving into any book.
Uh-huh.
What are you hoping to gain from this reading experience? What specific knowledge or skills are you seeking?
So it's about being intentional with our reading choices, not just picking up any book that looks interesting,
Right.
but actually aligning our reading material with our learning goals.
Precisely. And once you've identified a book that aligns with your purpose,
Okay.
the author introduces a 3-step reading method designed for efficient and effective learning.
Okay. I'm definitely intrigued. I'm always looking for ways to get the most out of my reading time. What are those 3 steps?
The first step is skim for feeling.
Okay.
This involves quickly browsing the book, paying attention to the table of contents, chapter headings, and any bold text or visuals that stand out.
So it's like a reconnaissance mission, getting a sense of the book's overall structure and content,
Yeah.
but we're not actually reading the text in detail yet.
Yeah. Not at this stage. The goal is to get a feel for the book's style, tone, and key themes. Does it resonate with you? Does it seem like it will be a valuable use of your time?
It's about making sure the book aligns with your learning goals and interests before committing to a deep dive that makes sense.
Sure.
What's the next step?
The second step is read for key points.
Okay.
This is where you start engaging with the text more deeply, but still with a focus on efficiency.
So we're not reading every single word,
Right.
but we're also not just skimming anymore.
Exactly. The idea is to identify the core concepts,
Okay.
the main arguments, and the key takeaways that the author is trying to convey.
So it's about reading with a purpose, actively seeking out the information that's most relevant to our learning goals. And how do we do that in practice? Are there any specific techniques we can use?
The book suggests using active reading techniques such as highlighting key phrases, taking notes in the margins, or summarizing sections in your own words.
That's great advice. I often find myself just passively reading,
Yeah.
but I know I retain information much better when I actively engage with the text.
Exactly. And the final step in this reading method is read for depth. This is where you slow down, savor the language, and really wrestle with the author's ideas.
So this is where we go beyond just extracting information
Yeah.
and actually start to internalize and reflect on what we've learned.
Precisely. The book encourages us to ask ourselves critical questions, challenge assumptions, and connect the concepts to our own experiences and knowledge.
It's about turning reading into a conversation, not just a one-way transmission of information.
And the author emphasizes that we don't have to read every book cover to cover.
Oh, okay.
We can stop and apply what we learn as soon as we find something valuable.
So it's about making reading an active, dynamic process. We're not just passively absorbing information, we're engaging with it, questioning it, and ultimately using it to shape our understanding of the world.
Exactly. And that's what superlearning is all about, taking ownership of our learning journeys and using knowledge to achieve our goals, make a difference, and live more fulfilling lives.
This is such a refreshing perspective on learning.
Yeah.
It's not just about memorizing facts or passing tests.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating a mindset,
Yeah.
embracing challenges, and constantly seeking growth. I'm feeling inspired.
I'm glad to hear that. And we've only just begun to scratch the surface of what this book has to offer.
I can't wait to dive deeper.
Me neither. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some even more powerful techniques for supercharging your learning.
I'm ready when you are.
Great.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of superlearning, but I'm eager to dive even deeper. What other gems does this book have in store for us?
Well, this is where the book takes a bit of a turn, challenging a common belief that many of us hold about learning. It suggests that learning shouldn't always be easy and comfortable. In fact, it argues that a little productive struggle can actually enhance the learning process.
That's an interesting concept. I tend to think of learning as something enjoyable, something that should spark my curiosity and make me feel good. Are you saying we need to embrace a bit of discomfort?
Think of it like physical exercise. When we push our bodies beyond their comfort zones, we build muscle and increase our strength. Similarly, when we challenge our minds with difficult concepts, we force our brains to work harder and create stronger neural connections.
Okay, I can see the analogy there. It's like the difference between passively watching a documentary and actively trying to solve a complex puzzle.
Exactly. It's about being an active participant in the learning process, not just a passive recipient of information. And this ties into another key point, that the book emphasizes the importance of questioning assumptions.
So we shouldn't just blindly accept everything we read or hear, even if it comes from experts or authority figures.
That's right. The book encourages us to cultivate a healthy skepticism, to evaluate sources critically, and to consider different perspectives before forming our own conclusions.
I think that's especially important in today's world where we're bombarded with information from all sides. It's easy to get caught up in echo chambers and filter bubbles, only exposing ourselves to information that confirms our existing beliefs.
Exactly, and that's why the book stresses the importance of seeking out diverse viewpoints, challenging our own biases, and being open to the possibility that we might be wrong.
It sounds like it's all about cultivating intellectual humility, recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and that there's always more to learn.
It's a lifelong journey, and the book encourages us to approach it with curiosity, open-mindedness, and a willingness to adapt and evolve.
Speaking of evolution, the book also touches on the concept of metacognition, which, if I remember correctly, means thinking about our own thinking.
That's right. Metacognition is essentially the ability to monitor and regulate your own learning process. It's about becoming aware of your strengths and weaknesses, your preferred learning styles, and the strategies that work best for you.
So it's like becoming your own learning coach,
Yeah,
constantly analyzing your performance and making adjustments as needed.
exactly. And the book provides some great prompts for engaging in metacognitive reflection. It encourages us to ask ourselves questions like, what are my most effective learning strategies? When am I most focused and productive? And what are my biggest distractions?
It's about taking ownership of our learning and becoming active participants in the process. But I'm curious, how do we actually put metacognition into practice? It seems like a very internal process.
The book suggests incorporating regular self-reflection into your learning routine. It could be as simple as taking a few minutes at the end of each study session to jot down what worked well, what challenges you faced, and what adjustments you might make next time.
That sounds manageable. It's like taking notes on your own learning process, identifying patterns and areas for improvement.
And the book also emphasizes the importance of seeking feedback from others, whether it's from a teacher, a mentor, a study buddy, or even just a friend. Getting an outside perspective can help you see your blind spots and identify areas for growth.
That could be tough, especially if you're someone who's used to doing things independently. But I can see how valuable it could be to have someone else observe your learning process and offer constructive criticism.
And the book provides some helpful tips for receiving feedback effectively. It encourages us to be open to different interpretations, ask clarifying questions, and focus on the specific actions we can take to improve me. It's about turning feedback into a powerful tool for growth, not a source of discouragement.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it. It's about using feedback as fuel for our learning journey, not letting it derail us. So we've talked about mindset strategies and even the importance of metacognition. But how do we apply all of this to specific areas of our lives? Does the book offer any guidance on how to use superlearning to advance our careers, improve our relationships, or simply become better versions of ourselves?
It does, in fact. The book dedicates an entire chapter to exploring how these superlearning principles can be applied in various domains of life.
That's great. I'm curious to hear some specific examples. Let's say someone is looking to climb the corporate ladder and achieve greater success in their career. How could they use superlearning to gain an edge?
Well, one of the most effective strategies, and one that the book highlights, is to identify a role model in your field, someone who embodies the qualities and skills you aspire to develop.
So instead of just reading books or taking courses, we should be actively studying the people who are already succeeding in the areas we want to excel in.
Exactly. The book encourages us to study their career trajectories, their decision-making processes, their communication styles, and even their mindsets. It's about learning from the best, not just from textbooks or traditional training programs.
It's about getting inside the minds of those who have already achieved what we desire. But how do we actually go about doing that? I mean, not everyone has access to top CEOs or industry leaders.
That's true, but there are plenty of ways to learn from successful people without having direct access to them. The book suggests reading biographies and autobiographies, listening to podcasts and interviews, and even attending industry events where you can observe these individuals in action.
So it's about being resourceful and finding creative ways to learn from the best, even if we can't shadow them directly. But it's not just about observing, right? The book also emphasizes the importance of taking action.
Absolutely. The book encourages us to find opportunities to apply the knowledge and skills we're gaining, whether it's through taking on new projects, volunteering for leadership roles, or even starting our own side hustles.
So it's about showing initiative, demonstrating our value, and making a tangible impact. But I imagine this can be intimidating, especially if you're just starting out in your career.
It can be, and that's why the book emphasizes the importance of cultivating a growth mindset when it comes to our careers. It's about viewing challenges as opportunities for learning and development, not as threats to our egos.
So it's about embracing those inevitable setbacks and using them to fuel our growth, seeing failure as a stepping stone, not a roadblock.
Precisely. And the book provides some great strategies for overcoming those moments of self-doubt. It encourages us to focus on our strengths, celebrate our accomplishments, and surround ourselves with supportive people who believe in our potential.
That's great advice. It's easy to get caught up in negative self-talk, especially when we're facing challenges. But it sounds like the key is to cultivate a more positive and supportive inner dialogue.
And that leads us to another important point, that the book highlights the power of networking. It's not just about what you know, but also about who you know.
So it's about building relationships with people in your field, attending conferences, joining professional organizations, and connecting with individuals you admire.
Exactly. And the book provides some helpful tips for networking effectively. It encourages us to be genuine, to focus on building authentic connections, and to offer value to others before asking for anything in return. It's about creating a network of support and collaboration, not just a collection of contacts.
It's like building your own super learning network, right? Surrounding yourself with people who can inspire you, challenge you, and help you grow.
Precisely. And the book doesn't stop there. It also emphasizes the importance of continuing education, whether it's pursuing advanced degrees, attending workshops, or simply staying up to date on the latest trends in your field.
It's about becoming a lifelong learner, always seeking new knowledge and skills to enhance your career prospects. But it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder, right? These super learning principles can be applied to personal growth as well.
Absolutely. The book offers some fascinating insights into how these techniques can help us enhance our well-being, improve our relationships, and become more fulfilled individuals.
I'm really intrigued by that. Can you give us some specific examples of how super learning can be applied to personal growth?
Well, one of the most powerful techniques, and one that we've already touched on, is modeling. The book suggests identifying individuals who embody the qualities you admire and studying their habits, their mindsets, and their approaches to life.
So it's about finding your personal role models, people who inspire you to live a more fulfilling and meaningful life. But it's not just about imitating their outward behaviors, right?
That's right. The book emphasizes the importance of understanding the underlying principles that drive their success. What are their core values? What are their beliefs about themselves and the world? What are their daily routines and habits?
So it's about delving deeper than just surface level imitation. It's about understanding the inner workings of those we admire and adapting those insights to our own lives.
Exactly. And the book also encourages applying the principles of visualization and goal setting to personal development. It's about creating a clear vision of who you want to become and setting specific, actionable goals to achieve it.
It's about taking ownership of our personal growth and designing a life that aligns with our values and aspirations. But what about those of us who struggle with procrastination, self-doubt, or a lack of motivation? Does the book offer any solutions for overcoming these common obstacles?
Absolutely. In fact, the book dedicates a significant portion to addressing these very challenges, acknowledging that they are common human experiences, not personal failings.
That's reassuring to hear. It's not about beating ourselves up for not being perfect, but about finding strategies to work with our imperfections.
Exactly. The book offers a range of techniques for overcoming procrastination, including the 5-second rule, breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps, setting deadlines, and even using rewards and accountability systems.
So it's about finding what works best for you. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Precisely. And the book also offers strategies for managing self-doubt, including reframing negative self-talk, focusing on your strengths, and celebrating your achievements. It encourages cultivating self-compassion and treating yourself with kindness, even when you make mistakes.
It's about being your own best cheerleader, right?
Yeah.
Believing in your abilities and celebrating your progress.
Exactly. And when it comes to motivation, the book suggests connecting with your why, understanding the deeper reasons behind your goals, and tapping into the intrinsic motivation that drives you.
It's about finding the fuel that ignites your passion and keeps you moving forward. But I think many people struggle with that. It's easy to set goals, but it's much harder to maintain the motivation to actually achieve them.
I agree, and that's why the book emphasizes the importance of making learning fun and engaging it, suggests incorporating your interests, finding a learning buddy to share the journey with, and even using gamification to make the process more enjoyable.
It's about turning learning into an adventure, not a chore, but it's not all fun and games, right? The book also talks about the importance of consistency.
Absolutely. The book reminds us that real progress requires consistent effort, even when we don't feel like it. It's about showing up, building momentum, and celebrating small wins along the way.
It's about creating a sustainable learning lifestyle, not just a short-term burst of enthusiasm. But what about the ethical dimensions of superlearning? I mean, if we're talking about accelerating our learning and achieving our goals faster, shouldn't we also be considering the potential downsides?
That's an excellent point, and one that the book addresses directly. It dedicates a section to discussing the responsible use of superlearning techniques, emphasizing that knowledge is power, and that power comes with responsibility.
Right. We need to be mindful of how we use the knowledge and skills we acquire. It's not just about personal gain, but about contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. The book encourages us to use superlearning to make a positive difference in the world, whether it's through solving global challenges, promoting social justice, or simply making our communities a better place.
So it's about using our superlearning superpowers for good. But I imagine there's also the potential for these techniques to be used for less noble purposes.
Unfortunately, that's true, and that's why the book cautions against using these techniques for manipulation or exploitation. It stresses the importance of respecting others, acting with integrity, and using knowledge ethically.
It's a powerful reminder that learning should be used to uplift and empower, not to harm or control. So we've talked about the practical applications of superlearning, but it sounds like the book also encourages us to consider the ethical implications of our learning journey.
Absolutely. It's about becoming not just super learners, but superhumans, individuals who use their knowledge and abilities to make the world a better place.
I love that it's about using learning as a force for good, both for ourselves and for the world around us.
That's the ultimate goal of superlearning, to empower ourselves to live more meaningful, fulfilling, and impactful lives.
This has been an incredible exploration of superlearning. I feel like we've covered so much ground, from mindset and strategies to the ethical dimensions of learning. But I'm curious, how does the book address the role of technology in this whole process? When we're living in a digital age with unprecedented access to information and learning tools.
That's true. And while the book focuses primarily on timeless principles of learning, it does acknowledge the evolving role of technology in education. It highlights the growing accessibility of online courses, the rise of personalized learning platforms, and the potential of virtual reality and augmented reality to create immersive learning experiences.
It's an exciting time to be a learner. We have more options than ever before.
But the book also cautions against relying solely on technology. It emphasizes the importance of maintaining a balance, blending technology with traditional learning methods, cultivating face-to-face interactions, and nurturing our innate human curiosity.
So it's about using technology as a tool to enhance our learning, not to replace the human element. It's about finding the right balance between the digital and the analog, the virtual and the real.
Exactly. The book encourages us to embrace the possibilities of technology while staying grounded in the timeless principles of human connection, curiosity, and the joy of discovery.
It's a powerful message, one that resonates deeply in our increasingly digital world. We need to find ways to harness the power of technology while staying connected to our humanity.
And the book reminds us that Ultimately, learning is about more than just acquiring knowledge and skills. It's about expanding our horizons, deepening our understanding of ourselves and the world around us, and using that knowledge to create a more just equitable and fulfilling future for all.
It's about using learning as a force for good, both for ourselves and for the world around us.
Exactly, and that's what makes super learning so compelling. It's not just a set of techniques or strategies, it's a philosophy, a way of life. It's about embracing the transformative power of learning and using it to create a life of purpose, meaning, and impact.
I love that it's a beautiful vision of what learning can be.
And it's a vision that we can all strive for, no matter our age, background, or current level of knowledge. The book empowers us to embark on that journey armed with the knowledge, skills, and mindset to super learn and make a difference.
This has been an incredible journey so far. We've explored so many fascinating ideas and actionable strategies, but I feel like we're just getting started. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
Well, I think the most important takeaway, and one that the book emphasizes throughout, is that we all have the potential to become extraordinary learners. It's not about some innate talent or special ability. It's about adopting the right mindset, utilizing effective techniques, and committing to consistent effort.
It's about unlocking the super learner within each of us. But where do we go from here? We've absorbed so much information, but how do we make sure it doesn't just stay in our heads? How do we turn this knowledge into action and create real change in our lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive. We'll delve into some practical strategies for putting all of this super learning wisdom into action and transforming ourselves into the learners and the people we aspire to be.
I can't wait. This is getting me really excited to put some of these techniques into practice.
Me too. And I'm confident that by the end of this deep dive, you'll be equipped with all the tools and inspiration you need to embark on your own super learning journey.
I'm ready for the challenge. All right, we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into super learning. We've explored mindset techniques, applications, even the ethical side of becoming a learning powerhouse. What I'm really curious about now is, where do we go from here? How do we take all this amazing info and actually make it work for us?
That's the perfect question to be asking. The book doesn't just want to fill your head with facts, it wants to spark action. Remember, the most valuable knowledge isn't what we learn, but what we do with it.
Okay, so no more passive listening. But with so much to choose from, where should someone even start?
One of the most effective ways to solidify learning is to immediately apply what you've discovered. Choose just one technique that resonated with you today and make a commitment to try it out this week.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by trying to do everything at once, we should pick our battles, so to speak.
Exactly. Focus your energy on mastering one technique at a time. It could be something as simple as incorporating the 5-second rule into your daily routine or experimenting with visualization before tackling a challenging task.
I think a lot of people, myself included, might be tempted to jump right to the most advanced techniques, thinking those will give us the biggest boost. But maybe starting small and building momentum is actually a smarter approach.
That's a great insight. Just like with physical fitness, it's better to start with a manageable workout routine and gradually increase the intensity. Don't try to run a marathon on day one.
So start small, focus on one technique, and make it a habit. What else can we do to ensure that this knowledge actually sticks?
Reflection is key. Take some time each week to review your learning progress, what's working well, what challenges are you facing, what adjustments can you make.
It's like we discussed earlier about metacognition, right? Becoming more aware of our own learning process and making intentional choices based on what we discover.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Share your super learning journey with a friend, join an online community, or find a mentor who can offer support and guidance.
I love the idea of creating a super learning community. It's so much more motivating and inspiring to learn alongside others who are on the same path. But what about those inevitable moments of self-doubt? How do we stay resilient when we hit roadblocks or feel like giving up?
Remember, setbacks are a natural part of any learning process. Don't let them derail you. Instead, view them as opportunities for growth. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I adjust my approach moving forward?
So instead of beating ourselves up for not being perfect, we should actually be thanking our mistakes for the lessons they teach us.
Exactly. Every challenge, every obstacle is a chance to learn, adapt, and grow stronger. And remember, the book emphasizes the importance of self-compassion. Be kind to yourself throughout this journey. Celebrate your wins no matter how small they may seem. And when you stumble, get back up and keep moving forward.
I love that it's a reminder that learning isn't just about achieving goals. It's also about cultivating a mindset of resilience, curiosity, and a love of the process itself.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, this deep dive is just the beginning. There's a whole world of knowledge out there waiting to be explored. The techniques and principles we've discussed today are tools to unlock your learning potential and empower you to create a life of purpose, meaning, and impact.
It feels like we've been given a superpower, but like any great power, it comes with responsibility.
Absolutely. Remember, knowledge is a gift, and it's up to us to use it wisely and ethically as you embark on your super learning journey. Consider how you can use your newfound knowledge and skills to make a positive difference in the world.
So it's not just about learning for ourselves, but about learning for the betterment of humanity.
That's the ultimate goal of super learning, to empower ourselves to live more fulfilling lives and create a better future for all.
This has been an incredible journey, and I want to thank you for being such an insightful guide.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, learning is an adventure that never truly ends. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep pushing the boundaries of your own potential.
That's a fantastic note to end on. And to all of you listening out there, we want to hear about your super learning adventures. Share your experiences, your challenges, and your triumphs with us on social media using hashtag #DeepDiveSuperLearners.
We can't wait to see what you achieve.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.